So Ken, I hope you can share with us your government's perspective on a possible NAFTA renegotiation, how you see such a renegotiation proceeding, what your government may be seeking in such a negotiation, and also how you view the improvements made in TPP, how they might relate to what can be accomplished in a renegotiation.
Thank you very much, Wendy. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this distinguished panel. Jumping right into your question, Mexico's position has been clear, I believe, from the beginning. NAFTA works. We believe it's a trade agreement that has increased trade flows and investment flows between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. It has created jobs. Over 15 million jobs in the U.S. alone depend on trade with its North American partners. And as we have created within the North American region a level of integration of supply chains that was went way beyond expectations when the trade agreement was negotiated. We do believe, and we're coming into this discussion with an open mind, we do believe that NAFTA can be modernized. After all, it's a trade agreement that's 23 years old. So from the Mexican perspective, we see the potential of introducing pro-competitive disciplines that build on a free trade platform of 23 years that can add standards and principles that are needed for the proper operation of the 21st century economy. Many areas did not even exist in terms of disciplines back when the NAFTA was negotiated. So there's definitely something where we can advance the three countries together. We see NAFTA as a trilateral agreement where we can advance together. The position of Mexico is also clear with regards of what we do not want to see in a North American free trade agreement upgrade or modernization, which is any backtracking on the trade liberalization that we have had. So any increases in tariffs, quantitative restrictions, any rolling back of the benefits that we have obtained through trade liberalization would not be something that we would be inclined to support. At the same time, the big question here is how do we get to do this? So we believe that it is essential to work together, not just the governments of Canada, Mexico, but also the U.S. society, private sector, on convincing decision makers in the U.S. of the importance of NAFTA. And in the case of Mexico, to send the signal that the Mexican economy is essential to the U.S. economic future, just as Mexico depends heavily on the U.S. And so the first step, I think, is that we need an honest assessment of the real impact of the NAFTA based on facts. And one of these facts I want to share with you is the fact that Mexico is a top customer of the U.S. We're not coming into this process as a country that just looks to extract concessions and access from the United States, where we are one of your top clients. And let me throw out some numbers out there. You know, the U.S. exports 25% of all its corn exports go to Mexico. It's the #1 destination. That's $2.6 billion. We are the #1 market for electronic circuits coming from the United States. $2 billion. We are the #3 country that spends the most on tourism activities in the United States. Mexican nationals spent over $20 billion in the United States last year. And the United States has also, in addition to the benefits that I've mentioned before in terms of trade and employment, has an $11 billion surplus in services trade with Mexico. These are just a few examples of how we impact positively on the U.S. economy. So we are encouraged by statements coming out of different sectors of the U.S., and we believe we need to do more, but encouraged by statements from the U.S. Congress, from key legislators, from Texas, California, Arizona, talking about the importance of Mexico for the relationship with the United States. But it's not just the border states. When you look at states like Illinois, where 200,000 jobs depend on trade with Mexico, Pennsylvania, another 200,000 jobs depend on trade with Mexico, we see the reality of how we've impacted positively the U.S. economy. You were talking about what lessons can we learn from other processes that we've been engaged with, for example, with TPP. Indeed, as I was mentioning, many of the disciplines that have been included or added to the TPP and where the three NAFTA countries negotiated did not exist back when the agreement was negotiated. So there's key areas there that look to facilitate trade, areas that are new, such as in the digital trade space, in IPR, expediting procedures on sanitary and phytosanitary measures. When you look at the importance of agricultural trade between Mexico, the U.S., and Canada, those are very beneficial and very welcome improvements. However, when we look at these areas, we also have to recognize that it is difficult, pretty much impossible, to simply think that we can extrapolate what was negotiated in the TPP and bring it completely as is into the North American context, because the outcomes of the TPP negotiation are the result of a balance, of a negotiation between 12 countries. So there are things that would be different in the North American context, and there are things that we could add, things that if you look at the history, both in the cooperation, for example, between Mexico and the US on the pro-competitive elements of border cooperation, infrastructure, regulatory cooperation, and other issues in the agenda that we've done bilaterally and trilaterally with our friends from Canada, those are pro-competitive elements that can be added to the discussion. And so, yes, in terms of TPP, even though the US right now has taken the decision to withdraw from the process, we are working actively on a strategy of diversification. We're looking to negotiate further with other regions in the world. We're enhancing our negotiations with Brazil, with Argentina, modernizing our trade agreement with the European Union. And in Asia Pacific, we're looking to work with the other members of the TPP to see how we can take this forward, either as a group of countries or bilaterally.